I'm an idiot. I cannot believe I did that. But you can see what I did. I opened it up instead of closed it. I should have made the small end on the top and the big end on the bottom. I just completely got switched around in my mind. You know, whatever. Now that's what it looks like. Okay, well there it is. That's the whole saw bench right there. It was just trying to use the scraps I had from my workbench that were left over. So I'm pretty happy with that. There were some errors along the way, some things I learned. I just copied the WOODWRIGHT'S design and instructions. The thing I did differently was that I used, 2x stock that I had left over. His is more like a timber framed type style, and so it's like really thick, 4-inch thick top, and then 4x4 legs, and so all his measurements are meant to fit that. And that was my big mistake, is I used his like 1/4-inch offset and for the dovetails and whatnot, for the wedging, and it just didn't work, because essentially on a thin top that's only about 1.5 inches thick, to have it come in essentially a 1/2 inch like over the course of 1.5 inches, it just doesn't make sense. It's too much of an angle to make it work. So what you have to do is you have to decrease it. What I would say is I just would give it a try to see if using, instead of the 1/4 like he says in the video, use 1/8, and then you have a total of a 1/4 over it, and I think it'll wedge more. What ended up happening with mine is I had to glue the legs. It turned out fine, it looks great, but the legs wouldn't stay in under their own pressure really at all. As soon as I lifted it up, they would start to wiggle loose. So if you really want the wedging effect that he talks about in the WOODWRIGHT'S shop video, you're gonna have to, on thinner stock, you're gonna have to decrease the angle quite a bit. On thicker stock, you can use that. So that's just what I learned. It was really quite intuitive. After I did the first one, the second one was a little easier, and by the fourth one, I just did it. I could just do it and laid it all out and just did it without even having to reference anything at all. And it made so much sense. My accuracy of the joinery went up, of course, over the 4 of them. The first one was fairly accurate. By the fourth one, though, it was no big deal at all. So I'm really pleased with it. Again, the biggest mistake I made, other than the wedging, is the fact that I cut the dovetail out instead of in, and that was just a virtue of the fact that I put the marks on the wrong line. And so, it's there on the bench. You've seen it. There's a little patch in there, and then I put another piece over top of it. I think it's gonna be fine. If it affects it, I'll just make a new bench. It's not really that big of a deal. But for what it is right now, I'm happy. It's about a day's worth of work. It took me a little bit of an evening and a little bit of a morning total. I wouldn't even say I've got 8 hours into this, just a couple. And a lot of that was preparation of the stock, watching and referring back to the video at all times. So if I were to make this again, this is probably a 2-hour project, I would say. Yeah, I would say that's pretty safe, because he's able to do the joint in about a 1/2 hour on the show. So if there's 4 joints, I think that'd be pretty, reasonable. But hopefully I don't have to make another saw bench anytime soon. In fact, I hope that this saw bench is the last step I've got to take before I go into actually sawing up and milling all the walnut I have for the sideboard project. And that's essentially why I decided to make this. I have a lot of lumber to prep for this next project, and I just know that when I've tried to do it other ways in the past, it's not been as effective. It slows down your workflow, and it actually leaves room in for injuries, I would say. So now that I have this really nice saw bench, I'm excited about that. So the way I got the measurement is I took a tape measure and I measured up to my knee, and it's about 20 inches to the bottom of my kneecap right there. So I tried to get it right around 20 inches. So to do that, I also wanted to decrease the splay of the legs out, and so he does a 1/4 rise over run, or ratio or angle. I did a 1/5, so that's what my bevel gauge was set to the whole time. So anyways, I hope this has been enjoyable and useful, and maybe it's given you some good ideas. And I would say that if you have the stuff, go ahead and just make it a thick saw bench. It's gonna be great, and I'm really pleased with that. It was just really quick. I don't have any plans or anything, but like you've seen the picture in the video here of what the actual angle looks like up close. Just watch that episode. That's what I did for this. It's really not that bad. But again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you around here for the next one.